Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everybody, wherever you're tuning in from in the world. Welcome to a new platform that we're using called Crowdcast. I absolutely love this. It's better than Zoom. And again, for things like what we're going to discuss today, really, really good. So I can see everybody that's in here. It is going to be recorded as well. So we will put the replay out on all of the Boostly socials. But this is one that I'm being excited about because I've known this chap now for coming on 3 years now, right? And every single time that I chat to Francois, I'm always impressed. I learn a lot, and this is a young chap that you need to make sure that you are aware of, whether you're following him on LinkedIn or wherever. The YouTube channel for Enso Connect is very, very good, so I recommend that you drop a little subscription on there. But today we're going to talk about how you can make more by doing less, which is what everybody loves. How can you make more money by doing less work, which is fantastic. So, Francois, for anybody who is not aware of your good self, can you just give us a super quick background on Enso, when you decided to co-found it, and just sort of where you are now, sort of 2025, where you stand with everything?
Yeah, so name's Francois, co-founder of Enso Connect. Started this out of university, so I was never supposed to actually build a business. I was supposed to make the family proud and get a job that pays. And then it was COVID, and I decided, well, let me get into the travel space. So you could imagine how happy my family was when I decided to get into this kind of industry in the peak of not this industry.
Mhm.
I studied computer science, cognitive science, focused in computational linguistics. My co-founder and I had read some papers around what is now known as ChatGPT. We were excited about the world of communication and guest experience. And then I did a master's of entrepreneurship in the UK, in your neck of the woods. And then came back to Toronto. So we started this company and a couple years ago, and really our mission is simple: to digitize and monetize the guest experience at scale. So how do you make the entire guest journey a digital one without really losing that personal touch? And how do you find ways along that journey to generate more revenue? Because at the end of the day, what I've learned is it's so much easier selling money than it is selling time, especially to busy property managers. So that's going to be a bit about what we're talking about today: making more with less in vacation rentals.
Fantastic. So we are going to dig into the session, and those of you that are lucky that you are tuning in live with us, whether you're watching live now on the Crowdcast or if you're watching it live on one of the streaming platforms that we are on, please do drop the questions in here. I'll collect them all, and then at the end, what I'll do is we'll go down and just chat with Francois over them. But the floor is yours, my friend. I'm going to mute my microphone. I'm excited to dig in and see what you're going to be talking about today.
100%. So, I'm going to be talking about a few things. I'll share a bit more about what Enso Connect does for this, but really talk about some of the strategies and the unique tips and tricks around upsells. I hear the same sort of objections from property managers at all times. Well, I can't offer an early check-in. I have busy schedules and too many guests checking in. It's impossible for me to service this. And there's actually really unique ways of always being able to maximize revenue. I gave the early check-in as an example, but there's all sorts of new revenue streams that you guys can look into. So I'm going to go through it. Thank you so much, Mark, for having me on this webinar today, on this Crowdcast and other live platforms. And I see we both have our X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. So that's awesome. So as I mentioned, really simple mission: streamline and monetize your guest experience, your guest management, and your guest communication. And I'm going to share a bit more about how we do this in a minute, but I'm going to also give you guys examples of this digital experience. So when we started this business, we picked on three main problems to solve, which is, how do we increase the revenue per guest that you are generating? How do we save you time in your operations as you try and generate these new revenue streams? And then how do you actually get more five-star bookings from the existing data and the existing guests that have gone through your property management business? There's a lot of interesting things in vacation rentals of how property managers kind of, and this really ties to the brand and the business that Boostly is all about, which is, you drink the Kool-Aid, in the sense that you get your leads and you get your deals kind of instantly from the OTAs. There's no really hard work. It's like a magic pill to get abs. You don't really have to work out. It's there. Is it the healthiest option? Not necessarily, but it's working. And so, being able to start collecting some of this information to truly understand your guests, to sell them more things, to save time for your VAs, your teams, but then also to treat it as a sales funnel and try to win back some of these guests. So I'll share more about that. Why do we exist? Why is this a problem? Well, running a vacation rental business is quite hard. There's growing guest expectations. There's really tough competition. I mean, at the end of the day, you're selling a service that maybe 3, 4, 5 property managers in the area are also selling the exact same service for. Both of you are going to say you have top-notch guest experience. Both of you are going to say you're going to make sure the property is safe. And your business model is probably very much the same in the sense you take a certain percentage of the rental. Rising costs, whether you're in the US or Canada, I think we've seen this right now, but I'm sure in other countries as well, it's getting more expensive to run a vacation rental business. In Canada, they removed certain tax exemptions and things that you could claim on your taxes, which suddenly made the cost of running this business very expensive. And then labor shortage. It's hard to find good people who want to deal with the mess that is managing all of these vacation rentals. So hospitality in 2025 for us is about, yes, more pressure, yes, less bandwidth, but how do you team up with tech so that you don't work as much? And we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to be talking about a brand new release that we just sent out yesterday. And then we're going to be talking about some tactics on upsells. So AI and automation as a teammate, digital guest experience, unlocking new revenue, and a special offer, although not for Avantio users. I think it's for Avantio users. We still have one up and running. We may have a few other special offers up and running. So AI as a teammate. There's a PNG study that has come out that clearly states performance. So one is the key area that AI can help, which is individuals plus AI is better than a team without AI. Teams in AI are 3 times more likely to make the top 10% of ideas. Speed increases with the AI for individuals. And then users with AI reported more excitement, energy, and less frustration. And I think that's because you get to work on the things that matter and not necessarily sort of your day-to-day tasks that are kind of frustrating. And I'll give examples around sharing Wi-Fi passwords and how you've already sent it 4 times to the guests, but they still ask you, what is the Wi-Fi password? So these are the kinds of things that we want to remove from your brain, remove from your day-to-day tasks so that you can focus more on selling things to your guests. So what a hospitality team can achieve with AI and automation is they can convert more bookings with faster responses. You can increase guest satisfaction and 5-star reviews, and of course, drive revenue and hit some key business goals. So we've got a few examples. One in particular, Scott Graydon, founder of Goodnight Premium Stays, had mentioned AI is now doing the work of several employees, saving us time and costs. Another one is here, Kevin Albert, in the same company. It's global expansion without hiring multilingual staff. If you're based in Europe, we started working with a company called Joyvi. They've got quite a few thousands of units across all of Europe. Every single one of these properties have different rules, different settings, and just different ways of being managed. I mean, in Spain, you have to send IDs to local authorities, the Guardia Nacional or Municipal. In Italy, you have to send it to every county or Istat. I forget the exact details. So every property is different, and property managers are trying to standardize an inventory that is different across different locations. And this is where AI can really help that global expansion if that is something on your roadmap. So one of the key things I want to mention is we've just launched the Enso Inbox 3.0. It's a much faster, cleaner, and collaborative inbox. We started as a messaging platform, expanded to what we call the boarding pass. And so we focused on launching this new inbox, which includes the concept of inbox zero. I don't know if you've, Mark, have you ever heard inbox zero? Do you use anything like Superhuman?
I do not, because I've got my own filters in place. I feel I've done my filtered Gmail Superhuman myself, but I have been dabbling a little bit with Superhuman. Impressed with the tools, and I'm a massive fan of Inbox Zero.
Yeah. And so the concept, guys, it's really simple. It's at the end of the day, you should have 0 messages. Now, I'm sure most of you are going to laugh to this statement and say, that's impossible, Francois. I get messages every single day from guests. How am I supposed to do this? And that's the concept of to do, follow up, or resolve. So just moving guests through different buckets based on what you actually have to do that day versus things you'll do later. We've launched a new model for drafting responses, and we're going to be launching Enso Autopilot very soon. So anyone who signs up right now actually gets it for free for the time being. And last but not least, AI sentiment analysis. That's something we've always kind of been keen on, is how can you be proactive in your guest conversations to really look at the sentiment of the conversation before it's too late. Multiple views so that you can see exactly what you need to see depends on every property management business. So basically building a framework for everything to be the same across every property manager, regardless of the PMS that you use, but configurable to meet your unique property management needs. And with an AI unified inbox, you can streamline and automate up to 80% of your guest communication. But I always get the same question, which is answering with AI is losing the personal touch. And my take to that is answering your guest messages is not the human touch that they're looking for. They're looking for a response to their question. The human touch is the personalization that you can drive throughout the guest experience. And I'll share with you guys a few examples. So a famous quote from the Ritz-Carlton. And mind you, the Ritz-Carlton has a $2,000 budget per employee to resolve any issue at any point without having to go through supervisor approval. I'm sure you guys don't have that same budget approval, although maybe if you're in the luxury settings, maybe you do. But the point is, anticipatory service is the essence of hospitality, where the genuine desire to understand, fulfill a guest's needs precedes even their own awareness of those needs. So it's about being proactive, and it's about kind of anticipating what that guest wants at the right time, for the right price, and for the right person. So AI can handle the mundane and can flag when human intervention is required. But let's look at a few cases where human intervention can be required. So we built this boarding pass. We call it a boarding pass, just like a boarding pass for your flight, but a boarding pass for your vacation rental, fully configurable, and goes through the entire flow from check-in to check-out and upsells and so on. And one of the first things that I always get from, I'm going to skip a few slides here, from guests or from, property managers is, well, I can't offer these upsells because I can't operationalize them. I need to know when my cleaners are ready. I need to know when my staff is ready, and so on. And one of the first things we tell you is think back at airlines. Airlines, when they get an early, there's no early check-ins in airlines. When you get a upgrade request, although I guess, you know what, there kind of is an early check-in if you think about it, because there's priority, security, and all of these different items to it. Well, when you pay your ticket, you might be rich enough to pay for the business class ticket and call it a day. Or if you're like me, you accumulate all these little points called e-upgrade points. And eventually you get to claim a seat in business class where you have to pay an extra $200 and you have to wait on the wait list. Now, what happens is maybe day of the flight, I decide, you know what, I spent way too much money on this trip. I probably don't need this little upgrade. Let me cancel it. Well, guess what? You can't cancel it. You've already asked for the upgrade. You've given your credit card. You've approved, if it's available, that you are going to take this additional or this new seat. And the airline now decides whether or not they can offer it. It's the same concept for early check-ins and late checkouts. Yes, I understand you might not be able to offer it day of because you might have overlapping cleanings and you might not be able to offer it at the same time. But by getting the credit card of the guest ahead of time and by receiving verbal confirmation via a guest app or any other format that they're requesting for an early check-in, even months in advance, you do not need to approve it until day of, whether that's automatically or manually by pressing a button. And what that does is that increases the conversion rate of how much revenue you're generating on these early check-ins. And once you give it to your cleaning teams to basically say, when you are done, press approve if it's ready, guests will purchase and guests will get charged, and that's extra money for your bottom line. Now, I know it's $50. I know it's $20 here, $50 here. It doesn't feel like a lot of money. But one metric that a lot of property managers tend to forget is their gross margins. There's a big difference, and I see this all the time with I'm going to be a bit mean here, but the Dubai style property managers, the ones who are like, I just made $5 million in 3 months for my Airbnb portfolio. And it's like, that's revenue. You take a commission from that. You've actually only made $300,000 from that, which is already impressive, by the way. But that's the kind of revenue impact you're having. Grabbing $50 extra on every single reservation can represent for certain property managers an increase of 30 to 40% in gross margins. Because if you think about it, from what you are netting at the end of the day, that money goes straight in your pocket, and it's 100% gross margins. I mean, it's a service you're offering, early check-in or tip the staff, whatever that might be, but you get to keep the revenue. So start thinking about upsells. If you're drying up a bit on bookings, or things aren't looking as good with your ADRs, this is a great chance to start unlocking these new revenue streams that will increase your gross margin profile. I like to talk about the operational ones specifically, but there's also experiential ones. So I'll just go back here for a second. Things like early check-in, late checkout, mid-stay cleaning. And we had Check-in Hero here, which was a product from Truvy, but really any sort of insurance damage waivers and so on. Experiential upsells. So local attractions, local experiences. Is there anything that you can offer that you are uniquely positioned to upsell? And we've got a whole calculator on our website, by the way, so that you guys can play around to see, okay, if I converted this much in this market, and what's my ADR, and how many guests do I get? Because really it's just a math exercise. You put it on a spreadsheet, and I guarantee you that with like 50 listings, if you don't make at least 3-4 grand a month, you're doing something wrong. So there's a lot of money to be made on upsells. And if you haven't seen the new update from Airbnb that just came out today, which I'm sure is going to be big hot press for everyone to start sharing, it's all about upsells. It's all about experiences. They're tapping into this revenue for you. So it might be worth starting to think about these additional experiences that you could offer your guests. The big update just got released this morning. It's May 13th. So have a look at it. It's I'm sure Mark will do a post about it. I don't want to steal the thunder on this one, but so we've just launched a product as well for this a couple months ago called Enso Experiences. You name a place, I'll tell you how many experiences we have, but over 300,000 pre-built experiences directly built in your boarding pass. We split the commission 50-50, 50% because you're selling it, 50% because I built it. But it's anywhere between 5 to 12%, if I'm not mistaken. And, it could be anything from like a Vatican Museum tour to, we've got some really unique experiences that people are offering, and hopefully we'll get involved with Airbnb as one of their partners to start pulling some of that inventory as well. Transportation. I've got a great example here. If you think back at some of the earlier slides, I know I skipped the AI guidebooks one, but about collecting data, and we do upgrades, and we do check-in and all of these different systems as part of your digital guest experience. One of the key parts that we noticed when we were collecting all of this guest data, and I'll give the example, is one of the most requested experiential upsells, I'll call them, was transportation to and from the airport. And I wasn't sure about this because I'd never booked anything like this. So I booked a trip to Aruba at one point for a little vacation, and I decided to book a taxi to pick me up and so on ahead of time. And I got to say, it is night and day, the experience, and the cost is exactly the same as you waiting for 15 minutes for your Uber at the airport. It's exactly the same. I mean, there's no difference. You pre-booked it and that's it. And it just makes the getting out of the airport much smoother. Now, that is a luxury not everyone can have. Some people must take public transportation. That's totally fine. But I will give you an example once again about collecting data, understanding your guests, which is one of the 5 pillars, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the 6 pillars that Mark shared in the previous webinar that we did together. So knowing your guests. If you have a property in Reykjavik, Iceland, and you know that this guest is an American guest, well, I guarantee you they didn't train to Iceland. They took a plane. And by taking a plane, they land in the morning. American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta Airlines, Air Canada, all of those flights land in the morning because they're all layover flights for other destinations in Europe. So what does that mean? Well, your check-in's at 4, your guests arrived at 9. They want quick transportation. They're jet lagged. They might want luggage storage. They might want to be able to check in early. And if you start understanding this data and you start knowing who is who and what is what and so on, that early check-in is no longer a $50 early check-in. It's an $85 early check-in. And that guest will pay it. Now imagine it is a business traveler. I can guarantee you that early check-in and that airport transportation option is expensed. So you can sell it now for 110 because they don't care. They're not the ones paying for it. It's part of their budgets. So again, understanding your guests allows you to sell these different incremental products. And it's not nickel and diming your guests. It's providing services at the right price and for the right person. And that margin improvement is beyond impressive. I think our most Our highest revenue per listing customer today generates $297 per listing per month in additional revenue. I mean, that's, an extra night. You could see it that way. But again, you don't take 20% of that. You keep 100% of it. So it's an extra direct booking night, if you will. Or it's your entire tech stack, your PMS and more that is covered through that. So again, there's a lot of money to be made through this. And the tie of all of these different upsells, and sorry for the back and forth here, is guidebooks. And guidebooks, there's plenty of amazing companies out there. TouchStay builds really nice guidebooks with maps and everything, and I'd say they're experts at that. We've built guidebooks as well, but we've actually used the concept of Google Places and ChatGPT, I guess, but a different model to pre-build a lot of these guidebooks and then retie them back to those upsells. So instead of just having a static, here's the best restaurant, let's tie it back to a reservation link. If you have the best bar hopping guidebook and you have a partnership with that bar hop, let's tie it back to their sort of group events booking channel and so on. So we're trying to tie the content that we're sharing with our guests with the opportunities that we can sell them in addition to the room rental or the booking itself. So here's a cool customer. They made over $250,000 in upsells in 6 months. This is Damen Glance. They now net about $120,000 per month in upsells. Now they do have 500, 600 units, so it's quite a bit. And I had another quote. I think it disappeared. It did. So I'll just point it out. His name was Jordan from Keto Co, French company. And, I'm French, so I can say this, but French people, they're not so much usually about making more money. They're usually about saving money. So when they buy software, they want the best offer, the cheapest deal, and the one that will save them money, not necessarily the one that makes them money. Jordan made the leap of faith. In his first month, he's making 1,500 euros per month. So that covers the cost of Enzo, but it also adds more revenue to the bottom line. So again, treat this just like airlines do. I'm not saying treat it like Ryanair, where they sell you the seat belt and the parachute and the extra engine, and you pay for the fuel on the flight and so on. But there's an intermediary between Air France business class and Ryanair's cheapest $20 ticket. Apparently, it's not Malta Air. Booked a flight with Malta, and that is beyond worse than Ryanair. They literally sell you everything. But that's a different story. So try to be in that middle ground where you offer services at the right price for the right people. And again, that comes with collecting guest data. So it's not just about first name, last name, and emails. It's also travel reasons, estimated time of arrival. What reason are they here for? Are they here for a bachelor party? Because if they're here for a bachelor party, selling them a ticket of family event at the Disney World package is not going to work, but maybe that's better for the family guests that are staying at your property. So understanding your guests is, one way of being able to remarket to them, but it's also one way of being able to make their experience better throughout. I do share on LinkedIn quite a few of these stories from time to time. We've generated over the past 2 months now, we've generated about $2.5–3 million, but last month we had generated our first $1 million month. We've done over $10 million for our customers in upsells, and we should be hitting, I said $50 million to my team. They put $30 million on this slide, so you can see that they're being a bit more conservative than me. But I genuinely think we can hit $50 million by the end of the year because of you guys, because of you, the property managers, who are realizing that, there is money to be made beyond the rental once I know who my guests are. So this is something Mark speaks about, knowing your guests, and it plays not just in the world of direct bookings, it plays in the world of your existing bookings to make that experience better. So do follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or wherever if you want to hear some of these success stories. I kept it really short, Mark. So I'm That's sure okay. I'll have quite a few questions, but I'm all about buying back your time, if anything.
Amazing. Really, really good. And so yeah, you mentioned about the Airbnb update, obviously the route that they're going down, and they don't make decisions lightly over there. Obviously they're going into experiences for a reason. What is your take on that, and how would you sort of review what they're doing and sort of the next sort of steps?
So I read it this morning while on my motorcycle. So I don't know if it was very safe for me to read. I got an update from Lee on my team, and she was like, these are the 6 things they launched. And so I was just reading while at a red light. So pardon me if I'm not fully refreshed on what they've launched. But from what I've seen, they've launched very specific categories which for upsells. I'm actually going to open it up because I had it right on the side. So there's a bunch of things that they always do, which is simplifying the actual listing creation and so on. And I think one of the key parts, at least my interpretation of this, is they're moving more and more and more into the actual management of your property without actually becoming a property manager. They're really on that fine line. And in doing so, we're talking about Airbnb setup and the calendar view and how you set up your properties and so on. It's still a fine line enough, and I think it's compensated with everything they're doing and becoming not just a travel OTA, but a marketplace, a place where people, when they want to book travel, they don't go Google, they don't go Chat GPT, they go Airbnb first, and then they figure out what they want to book. And that is a very big behavioral change. So that behavioral change, I kind of assess it amongst different generations. Like, people my age will go directly on an Airbnb website, or will be savvy enough to find that name, reverse engineer it on Google, and so on. But what I'm seeing as a trend right now is people are looking on OpenAI, are searching their travel itineraries. And I did this because I'm doing a full trip across Turkey and Malta and France and all of this travel. And it was like, okay, this is impossible for me to book without designing a spreadsheet and building a system, using ChatGPT to just build that itinerary for me, because I want direct flights and I want this and I want that. So the concept of search is changing. Airbnb does not want to position itself with the Googles of the world. It want to be a big enough brand that people, when they think travel, they don't search OpenAI, they search Airbnb. And I think this move towards marketplace items across different upsells is a retry of what they've done before in the past, but a simplified retry. So they did new Airbnb services, and they're specific. It's chefs, photography, massage, spa treatments. Like, it is very specific and categorized. And then they still have this experience bucket, right? Where it's kind of, you don't know what to expect. It might be a food tour, a cooking class. It's more of a unique, very branded experience. I think Brian Chesky has this beautiful design essence to how to build a trip. And he's realized that doesn't work for everyone. And he's starting to categorize to try and hit everyone. I am surprised, though, that they have still not gone down the path of operational upsells. I'm very much surprised. Maybe the new policy move was a small move towards that, but really it isn't. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Mark?
So here's a question. So would you not class the chef or the clean as an operational one? Are you sort of, and it's not an experience, are you sort of putting that in a different category?
It's a good question. I guess it depends if you're the one. I see the operational one, specific for property managers, as the one that are going to touch your operations, as in cleaning, scheduling, and so on. Chefs, photography, massage, and so on, for me, is still experiential. I mean, we'll probably have to recategorize, to be honest, and follow Airbnb's pattern here, as I'm sure they've spent quite a few millions of dollars figuring this out. But the reason I'd always put it in the category of experiences is because it involves you and someone else. And the someone else is the one who's offering that service. So you are coordinating with someone else, but there is someone else. Whereas on early check-ins, it is you offering that service. On mid-stay cleaning, that is you. I mean, arguably, it's your cleaning team, but that is part of your business. So, yeah.
The question that I wrote down, and someone mentioned it on the stream as it was coming in, was about it was a quite a good one. So I've rephrased the question, but what is one of the sort of experiences, not operational, but experiences that you've seen Enso customers offer that has surprised you? And as any outliners of one that have worked really well, or ones that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, but that's a really good one to add in?
Yeah. My favorite one is a partnership with restaurants. So everyone's got guidebooks, physical or digital, and you recommend your favorite place. But sometimes you have 2 or 3 places that you really like that might be a bit further off, and so on. Well, you go to those restaurants and you say, listen, I've got 40,000 guests that go through my doors every single year. Pay me $500 a month, and I'll put you as the top #1 place brunch in my guidebooks. And here's a QR code. Here's a tracking code. It's all about selling that part. At that point, you need to sell the experience. Now, this is more valuable for smaller property managers, because if you have, I don't know, 500 homes, it's kind of difficult to go out and figure out all these restaurants. But if you have 10, 20 units, that is an easy win. And when I saw a property manager do that, I was like, that's pretty cheeky. He did not pick the best brunch place. He picked really the one who paid the most, which isn't always the best approach either. You want to strike a balance. So that was one. The other one that struck me was, and I thought this was brilliant, was a telescope rental. But it wasn't any telescope rental. It was a telescope rental during the what's it called? Oh, I have it in French. The moon, sun, the eclipse.
The eclipse.
So you could rent for $400 a day. You could rent a telescope to watch the eclipse. Well, guess what? All the bookings in that region in the U.S. and Canada, they were all for the eclipse. Everyone was booking a stay to see the eclipse. So I thought that was a really unique upsell. I think it depends. Again, it depends on your business. It depends on where you're located. Ski packages for desert destinations don't work very well, but for ski destinations, they do. So you really want to tailor it to your market, but then again, to your audience as well, to the time to the season, to how much they've paid. You know, if they've paid $10,000 for a stay, I can guarantee you they can pay a bit more for certain things. If they've paid $69 for a night, probably not. So yeah, I've seen some
It
crazy
comes
stuff.
back to knowing your guests. Like the exact thing that you mentioned, you spoke about is, you gotta you base the upsell experience based on the clients that you are being put in front of, who the ideal people that you want to put in. And again, you could put in front of your guests some of the most best experiential upsells that you could imagine. But at the end of the day, if the people walking through your door doesn't appeal to them, they'll never sell. So
That's right.
again, you match the experience to the person that's walking the walking through the door. And just on an Enzo point of view, how are you getting on with the new policy updates on Airbnb? What have you been doing to pivot? Like, how are you chatting to your clients to sort of say, hey, we can still do all of this on platform, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the new Airbnb policies, and we're an official partner of Airbnb, so we have direct integration, direct connections. So we have to be, I want to say, somewhat political about our public responses on some of these things, but it's simple. Everyone keeps thinking that Airbnb is out to get them. And yes, there's a point of Airbnb is building a moat around their business, that's for sure. But it's in response to the SB 478 laws. This is a new law in California that states that you need honest and fair pricing. What that means is no more hidden and junk fees. They've taken advantage of that to also change up a few of the policies around it, rewording the same things, which is try not to drive bookings off platform, the same kind of spiel we've heard over and over from Airbnb's core teams. But when you look at it specifically, they talk about using resolution centers and so on. But I think the Airbnb teams are very well aware that that is not efficient for larger property managers. So I state that the upsells, they are optional payments. These are not things that you are forcing guests to buy. For Airbnb to force you to say they have to use the resolution center, that's not going to work. In terms of payments, like mandatory fees, it's also a fine line. Safety deposits, there's a specific area in their APIs that allows partners like us to do safety deposits. It just means putting it at the bottom of the total price on Airbnb. But it is becoming a bit more restrictive. Now, these new changes around experiences and upsells and how that impacts policy and how that might impact changes to how now optional payments might be required to be on Airbnb and so on. I'm sure there's a point in time where that starts to go in that direction. Enforcement of those rules without losing hosts, I think this is where, again, Airbnb has two customers. They have the property manager as a customer and they have the guests. And yes, property managers always think that the guest is being favored, and maybe that is the case. But they will have to find the balance between the two if they don't want to start losing all of their property managers. And hosts, or as they would call them. So I guess our interpretation is what Airbnb's told us, which is we can keep running and we're good and we're delivering value to their customers night and day. So there's no issues there, but certain restrictions, of course, on collecting certain fees off platform and trying to remarket to guests is the
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah, yeah,
other
yeah.
big one, right? So yeah.
Good. Good. Well, you talk about bringing value to the client. So, with Enzo, what is like the plan for the next sort of 3 months of 2025, and who are you looking to speak to, and like how can people get in contact with you if they want to find out more about all the work that you're doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, we're positioning ourselves as the guest experience platform. And what that means, if you know Intercom, Zendesk, and platforms like that, that means really Zendesk of hospitality, multi-channel inbox, regardless of the PMS that you have, that automates all of the responses and upsells for you. The upsell medium is through the boarding pass, but also via messages. So really trying to break through the mold with every property manager out there, although limited by the integrations that we have. In terms of getting in touch with me, pretty simple. LinkedIn, I'm pretty responsive there. My email, firstname.lastname@enzoconnect.com, pretty unresponsive there. But you can still try and send me an email. And then just reach out on our website. We always have teams that, answer and can help answer any questions. Big update just came out yesterday with the inbox that I've been talking about for a couple weeks now. And I'm excited because we have a new website that we're going to be building very soon as well to share about all of this. So I can't wait.
And what is the domain? What is the URL?
EnsoConnect.com. Now it is with an S, ENSO. It is not Enzo like the Ferrari with a Z. We do move that fast, but we're Enzo with an S. So EnsoConnect.com. And yeah, that's a Japanese symbol of Zen, because we are going to bring that Zen to your guest experience.
There you go. Love it. Love it, love it. Well, hey, Francois, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody that's tuned us in the Crowdcast room and everybody that's streamed. Like I said, this is going to get recorded. We're going to put it on the YouTubes and do it on the podcast as well, which is epic. So it'll be on Spotify and everywhere you love to get your replays from. But yeah, please do reach out. Go and follow Francois on LinkedIn and Twitter. Really good follow. And yeah, go and follow everything Enso Connect. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Francois, any final words you'd like to leave before we let you go on this lovely Tuesday?
My mantra, my personal mantra, every problem has a solution.
There you go. With that being said, fantastic way to end the show. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all very soon.
Having a blast. Gonna get it on the Bruce Lee podcast. Bruce Lee like Bruce Lee, because it's so hard and the T is loose leaf. Making up those rhymes. Don't write it, just do it loosely.